message, including her own life-changing encounter with a pregnancy resource center. You won't want to miss it. CareNet of Santa Fe Espanola, a decade of delivery banquet, Saturday, October 5th at the Santa Fe Convention Center. The banquet is free, but you must register to be sure to meal. To register, call 505-995-1998 or register online at registration@santafepregnancy.com. Save the date, a decade of delivery, 10th annual fundraising banquet, benefiting CareNet Pregnancy Center of Santa Fe Espanola, Saturday, October 5th, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Santa Fe Convention Center.
Co-sponsored in part by Sun Broadcasting.
AM 730 KDAZ and FM 96.9 Albuquerque, a ministry of the Sun Broadcasting Network.
Coffee and conversation, where you get your information. Whether local, regional, or international, coffee and conversation. Coffee and conversation. Coffee and conversation.
And welcome back into Coffee and Conversation. I am Mark Wall, filling in for Larry Aaron, sitting here with Frank Haley.
Good morning.
And good morning, sir. I just wanted to bring up a topic that not a lot of people really think about. Have you ever Googled your own name?
Yes, I have, and it's pretty scary.
It is, because a lot of stuff comes up, doesn't it? In fact, the first 4 things that came up when I Googled my name were me.
Were what?
Were about me.
Oh, they weren't really about you then.
Yeah, when I was on CNN and stuff like that. And then I said, well, let me Google my guest today, because they're 2 authors. I Googled them, and it was amazing. They had like 18, the first 18. So there's 10 things per page on Google.
Yeah.
So I went to page 2. So then I said, well, I know this guy, John DeFendis, he former Mr. USA. How did he do? 22.
Pages?
No, 22 entries. The first 22 were about him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So then I said, I appreciate the show and the opportunity to be on here. So I Googled Larry Aarons. Mm-hmm. The first 78 entries were Larry Aarons.
Oh, my goodness. Larry.
Our Larry Aarons, yes. So I went through 8 pages to get to the end of Larry's stuff, and I'm like, man, that is an awful lot of coverage.
Yeah.
Just goes to show you how much he's done.
Yeah, really.
And, I've done a lot of things and been a lot of places, but most of them probably weren't noteworthy. That's why I don't have 7 or 8 pages too, And my dad said one time, somebody asked him, do you have a degree? He said, I do. I have a BS PhD. And I was like, I don't think my dad's ever been to college. And it was something piled higher and deeper. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. Okay.
But I thought that was pretty impressive. Larry's 8 pages you go through to just see all the different things he's done. It's amazing.
He's done a lot. Yeah.
He has. Mm-hmm. What an honor to be able to fill in when he is taking care of his wife. It's just my honor.
I must tell you, I'm glad you're here.
Oh, brother, it's been a pleasure. You're watching us today on television. Yes, you are. KCH TV 11 and listening to us on KDAZ AM 730 and 96.9 FM. We'll be back after this.
Save the date for a decade of delivery, our 10th annual fundraising banquet benefiting CareNet Pregnancy Center of Santa Fe and Espanola, Saturday, October 5th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Santa Fe Convention Center. Please join us as actress and pro-life speaker Lauren Roman, best known for the ABC soap All My Children, shares an entertaining, dynamic, and powerful message, including her own life-changing encounter with a pregnancy resource center. You won't want to miss it. CareNet of Santa Fe Espanola, a decade of delivery banquet, Saturday, October 5th at the Santa Fe Convention Center. The banquet is free, but you must register to be sure to meal. To register, call 505-995-1998 or register online at registration@santafepregnancy.com. Save the date, a decade of delivery, 10th annual fundraising banquet benefiting CareNet Pregnancy Center of Santa Fe Espanola, Saturday, October 5th, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Santa Fe Convention Center.
Co-sponsored in part by Sun Broadcasting.
Wishing for more money in your pocket this summer? With an auto loan from State ECU, you'll be cruising with no car payments for 90 days and $150 cash. Whether you're buying a new vehicle or refinancing, we're here to help those summer wishes come true. Finance your vehicle with State ECU today. Visit your local branch, give us a call, or apply for your loan online.
State Employees Credit Union, local confidence.
Majesty Worship Center presents the 8th Annual Soldiers of the Cross Iron Sharpens Iron Men's Conference, Friday, September 27th, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday the 28th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at South Broadway Cultural Center in Albuquerque. For more information, call 505-261-5667 or visit the web at majestyworship.org. Co-sponsored with the Sun Broadcasting Network.
News you need to know now with Frank Haley in the AM 730 newsroom and on FM 96.9.
Hello, New Mexico, and good day to all our listeners and viewers in Torreon. It's Friday, September 20th. Expect a high temperature this afternoon in Albuquerque of about 87 degrees. Next week, the highs will be in the mid to upper 70s. The news is brought to you by Sun Broadcasting in Albuquerque. Attention, all of our prayer partners, please be and pray for Southeast Texas, the Houston area, as they try to recover from severe flooding following 35 to 40 inches of rain in the last 48 hours. Remember, prayer is the greatest untapped resource of the power of God. And if you need prayer, you can call our prayer line anytime at 505-345-4165. A slow churning tropical storm Imelda flooded parts of Texas and left at least 2 people dead as rescue crews with boats scrambled to reach stranded drivers and families trapped in their homes during a relentless downpour that drew comparisons to Hurricane Harvey 2 years ago. But this storm only had winds of about 35 miles an hour, but lots of rain. By last night, floodwaters had started to recede in most areas of Houston. Law enforcement officers planned to work well into the night to clear the freeways of stalled vehicles and abandoned vehicles because of the flooding. Officials in Harris County, which is Houston, said that there had been a combination of at least 1,700 high water rescues and evacuations to get people to shelters. More than 900 flights were canceled or delayed in Houston yesterday. Federal, state, and local law enforcement agents, some descending from helicopters, staged early morning raids in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and elsewhere in northern and central New Mexico yesterday to take down a longtime drug trafficking organization and its leader. Robert Corbin Padilla, also known as Fathead, was taken into custody yesterday in Albuquerque. Padilla faces multiple charges, including distribution of fentanyl and cocaine. A DEA search warrant says that Padilla's organization, which operated out of his home in Albuquerque, distributed cocaine, crack cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, oxycodone, and fentanyl pills. The FBI, Homeland Security agents, and U.S. Marshals plan to execute arrest warrants for about 25 people, a dozen of whom are members of Padilla's organization. The DEA says that Padilla had been conducting drug trafficking activities from his home in the 8400 block of San Juan Northeast in Albuquerque for several years. Albuquerque police say one man is dead after some kind of an altercation near Coors and Central last night.
The man sustained life-threatening injuries and was rushed to the hospital. He later died. No other details released on that story. And a man who shot at sheriff's deputies, injuring two of them in a northwest Albuquerque neighborhood Wednesday night, told investigators he thought he was the victim of a home invasion. 36-year-old Kenneth Sondergaard is charged with multiple counts of aggravated assault on peace officers and possession of a firearm by a felon. 5 detectives with the sheriff's office were executing a search warrant in reference to methamphetamine being sold from Sondergaard's house near Coors and Montano when the gunshots rang out through the front door. Sheriff's detectives found shell casings, an AK-47 rifle and with a drum magazine, and an AR-15 with 2 30-round magazines taped together, all of which belonged to Sondergaard. A woman approaching the house after the deputies arrived told them, well, she'd been buying methamphetamine from Sondergaard for about 2 months. Have you noticed more balloons in the air recently as we get ready for the most notable event in the city? Last year, an estimated 886,000 people attended the International Balloon Fiesta, which begins this year on Saturday, October 5th. So far, 559 balloons are registered for this year's fiesta. That's just 8 shy of last year's total. As for special shapes, you can expect to see 8 more than last year, 104. 11 new special shaped balloons will fly this year. And this year there'll be 17 countries taking part, including Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Colombia, the Czech Republic, France, Germany, Great Britain, India, Kenya, the Netherlands, Russia, Spain, Switzerland, and Thailand. This year marks the first time that Kenya and India have taken part in the fiesta. The 2017 Balloon Fiesta, which is the latest year numbers are available, that fiesta generated $173 million into the local economy. And now from the Sun Broadcasting Good News File, the Rio Grande Down Syndrome Network is celebrating its 10th anniversary annual Buddy Walk tomorrow at the Anderson Abuso Albuquerque International Balloon Museum from 10 to 2. The Buddy Walk is the Rio Grande Down Syndrome Network's biggest fundraiser of the year, generating money for year-round activities provided by the organization for individuals with Down syndrome and their families. The event will include activities and games provided by partners including Mandy's Farm and the Bernalillo County Metropolitan Detention Center, as well as food trucks and entertainment by Expressions of Joy, Sunshine Ambassadors, and others. Buddy Walks around the nation will aid in furthering acceptance while helping provide families with the critical support and resources they need. And that's good news on a Friday. Remember what Mother Teresa said, "Spread love everywhere you go. Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier." Have a blessed day. I'm Frank Haley, CJF.
Thank you, Frank. Welcome back into the Coffee and Conversation studio. Today on the show, we're going to have 2 different authors. We've got a children's author who is going to be on the show with us this morning, and her name is Rosie J. Pova. Some of you may have already seen some of her books, and you can find more information at rosiejpova.com. And then we have, in the second half of the hour, we're going to have Marty Vargas on with us. But this morning, first and foremost, Rosie J. Pova, children's author, speaker, and mom. Welcome to the show, Rosie.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, ma'am. We're excited about having you on with us today. And I wanted to ask you, one of the things that we get concerned about as parents, we want to know if we're setting a bad example or if we're leading by example. Give me your thoughts.
Yes, that's the most important thing because parents are really the best role models for a child. And it is important to know what we want and what our goals are, so we can model that to our kids. And especially, I know for moms, they're so busy, they're overwhelmed, they're exhausted. Isn't that the truth? And I've been there myself, right?
Yeah.
And especially when my kids were little, but I still had a dream. I had this crazy dream of becoming an author, and I did everything possible to work on my dream. So I think it's important to model that.
Well, tell me a little bit about that, the balancing act of being a mom, wife, and dreamer, and the lessons that you learned and how other women can apply them.
Yes. So when my kids were little, so we had a very demanding business. I had 3 little children at home, and like I said, I wanted to become an author. And so I didn't have the time, but I made the time. So I really want to encourage moms to take time for themselves. If I had to write at 5 a.m. in the morning, that's what I did. But really, that was important to me. And you're sending this message of what you're doing and going after your goals, because as moms, we want the best for our kids. We want to encourage them to pursue their goals and dreams and all that. But are we doing the same for ourselves? You know, I think it's only setting a good example. And yeah, moms should take the time and do the things that they enjoy, recharge, refresh, and they'll be more helpful to their families as well that way.
Absolutely. And I want to know, what are some fun ways that you can use to engage kids and get them away from the computer?
Yes, that's a big problem nowadays. And I have a child who's pretty much obsessed with video games too. So I always try to find new ways to get him away from the screen. And so I do have some tips. Not everything will work for every child, but as long as you know your child's interest and try to engage them in activities they would enjoy. I would really love for kids to read more, and not just school requires that, but just read for fun. So take them to the library, help them check out books they're interested in, so they become really readers who are loving that. I also encourage parents to connect with authors. Take your kids to author events. There's a local organization that they can find at CBWI, and stay in touch with authors that way. Really go back to basics. Provide opportunities for them to use their imagination. You'll be surprised what happens if they're interested in cooking. For example, my daughter, she recently tried a mug cake recipe, and so we did that. Whatever they enjoy, or whenever they have friends over, maybe organize a scavenger hunt instead of, them being in the room with, in front of the screens. We take them to the park for a picnic. We do that too with my son. There's so many opportunities, and I think something would work.
Oh, absolutely. Now, let me ask you, you immigrated from Bulgaria. And what year did you immigrate to the U.S.?
I came to North America in 1998, and we lived in Canada for a while, and then we moved to the United States.
Okay. And when you came to the Now, did you have this dream of becoming a children's author before you left Bulgaria, or did that happen as you transitioned?
I've always been passionate about writing, even when I was a young child, but I didn't really focus on becoming an author until after I had my first child, and I started reading children's books to her.
Right.
And I rediscovered my passion, and I thought, why not try, write my own books?
Sure.
And it wasn't an easy road. I was new to this country. English was not my native language. But like I said, it was this crazy dream that wouldn't go away.
I hear you. And when that dream gets built up on the inside of you, you did what people should do, and that's pursue the dream and chase it so that you can fulfill that passion that exists on the inside of you. And too many times people have dreams and they just let them go.
Yes, unfortunately, that's what happens because the day-to-day life takes over, and the exhaustion, and we're overwhelmed with so many chores, and we forget that we actually have something that we enjoy. So I do want to encourage moms to pay attention to that and find the time. Like I said, I didn't have the time. It was a matter of commitment for me, and I had to pursue that dream.
So you were getting up at 5 in the morning to write sometimes?
Yes, if that what it took, I did that because after the day starts, it was a long, exhausting day, and I didn't have any other time to write during the day. So that was my quiet time when everyone was asleep, and I had to enjoy my 2 hours.
Oh, okay. That's what I was going to ask you now. How many hours did you get to write starting at 5 a.m.? So about 2 hours?
About 2 hours until 7, and I had to take kids to school. But I'm not saying it was every day. You know, it doesn't have to be every day, but just put it on your calendar. It's not. I want to burst that myth with moms that taking care of yourself first is selfish, which is not, because it's actually very beneficial to your whole family. When you're refreshed, recharged, and satisfied with yourself and your passions, then you're really a happier person, and that's the bottom line. Kids will pick up on that.
Oh, yeah. And if mom's happy, everybody can be happy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is right.
Yes, indeed. Well, how many books do you have out right now, Rosie?
Currently, I have 4 books out, and one will be released next year. I'm very excited about that. Can't wait to share it with my readers.
Now, is that the one you're currently working on?
That one is already in production, so it's in the process of illustrating. That will be out in the fall of 2020. It's called Sunday Rain, but I am working on other stories which we'll be submitting to other publishers, and I hope I found good homes for them as well.
There you go. Well, tell me this. I know that you stated that when you were reading books to your children, it rekindled that fire. So now how does it feel to know that mothers and fathers around the nation and around the world are reading your books to their children?
Oh, it feels wonderful. It's just indescribable. When I read the reviews, parents telling me that my book was their child's favorite and they asked, to read it every night at bedtime, it just feels so wonderful to know that. I love connecting with readers, and it's just a joy. So
in your experience and adventures, now you go into schools and speak and do all of this too. Do you want opportunities around the nation to speak at schools, or what are you trying to do as far as schools?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I am available to visit schools in the United States. It's one of my favorite things. I really enjoy it. I connect with kids. They respond super well to my books and my message of encouragement. So I am currently booking. Educators are welcome to reach out to me.
Okay. And one of the things that you just said really struck home with me. You're encouraging children through your writing, and you're encouraging moms to pursue their passions. So how long before the speaking tour?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. How long?
How long before we actually see you on a speaking tour and we get to see you going around the nation and doing seminars?
Oh, I'm working on it.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I had a feeling you may be. Just looking at everything and the path that you're taking, it's kind of the natural progression for you then to become a national speaker, get invited to different corporations and things of that nature. So I hope that's what happens for you. I'm excited for you, and thank you so much for what you're doing for the children.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, Rosie, you have an awesome day, and we will continue to tell people. I want to tell them they can go to rosiejpova.com and you'll be able to see all of her books and the news and events that she has. Thank you so much for being with us, Rosie.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yes, ma'am. That was Rosie J. Pova. And we are going to take a short break, and we will be back to you right after this.
Get along down the road. We got a long, long way to go. Scared to live, scared to die. We ain't perfect, but we try. Get along while we can. Always give love the upper hand. Paint a wall, learn to dance. Call your mom, buy a boat, sing a song, make a friend. Can't we all get along?
I did my research when I bought my new Volvo, and I knew what a great vehicle I was getting. What I did not realize was the great experience I would receive at Corley's Albuquerque Volvo. Not only was the sales experience exactly what you would expect, and more when purchasing or leasing a new Volvo, but what they do after the sale is simply amazing. Eddie Corley tells me it's their yes we can attitude, and I believe it. They give me a nice Volvo to drive when I bring mine in for service. We'll even pick it up if I need them to. Did you know that when you buy from them, they'll even wash your car anytime it gets dirty for free? Now that's service. Oh, and their breakfast burritos at their on-site Corley's Cafe are delicious. See for yourself at Corley's Albuquerque Volvo at the Alameda exit off I-25 in Albuquerque, or you can visit them at corleysalbuquerquevolvo.com. and tell them Larry sent you.
Corley's Albuquerque Volvo at the Alameda exit off I-25 or visit corleysalbuquerquevolvo.com.
I am a nurse,
a firefighter, a college student,
a mother, and I am an American soldier.
I will always be ready
for every storm
and disaster that threatens my community.
I will always be there to protect my neighbors,
my family,
and my country.
We are the Army National Guard.
We are the Army National Guard.
We are the Army National Guard.
Visit nationalguard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. I'm Mark Wall, filling in for Larry Aarons here in the studio with Frank Haley. And I got to ask you a question.
All right. Don't make it too tough now.
Okay. Were you aware that if you put Saturn, the planet Saturn, in an insanely large bathtub, that it would float?
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Where would you get the bathtub?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it would have to be huge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So another bizarre fact.
All right.
Rats actually laugh when they're tickled.
Really?
Yeah. So I now have to ask myself, and I'm sure that people out there listening are wondering, who gets paid to tickle rats to find out if they laugh?
Yeah. Do you know what horny toads are?
I do.
The little critters that, got the little horns all over them.
Yeah.
We used to catch those back in Texas when I was a kid. And if you would tickle them on the side, they evidently liked it because they would kind of roll over.
Oh, kind of like your dog
eyes.
does. Yeah. My goodness. And do you know a group of ferrets is called a business?
No, but a group of baboons is called a congress.
Oh, I think I laughed too hard on that. I probably am going to get in trouble from my political friends.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's okay. It's not the first time I've been in trouble.
Not the first time now.
No. Baby bunnies, do you know what they're called?
Baby bunnies? No, what?
Kittens.
Baby bunnies are called kittens.
I had no idea.
And baby kittens are called kittens.
Don't confuse the two.
All right.
Okay. Because, I'm
they're
sure
both
it's
cute.
Easy. Yeah. They are both cute. And I was thinking about the number of entries on Larry Aarons for Google.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to that for a minute because 78, you have to go through 8 pages when you Google Larry Aarons. That is extremely impressive because not only it says a lot about his longevity, but the amount of things that he's been involved in, because I was just looking at all the different topics and things of that nature. That guy has led an interesting and awesome life, and kind of like our last guest, Rosie Pova, he pursued his dream.
Yeah.
And when you pursue your dream, you have fun.
Yeah.
I guess I'm finding out at 61 years old that I like doing this.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to think about pursuing this, because not only is it fun, but I leave here like, hey, that was awesome. Yeah. I got to talk to Frank. I got to talk about different topics. And I was sharing with somebody about all the guests that we've had just in the 5 weeks that I've been here.
Yeah, short time.
Yeah. And it's amazing. People all over the nation being guests right here on Coffee and Conversation, and to all of our audience here in New Mexico. So Coffee and Conversation is bringing in the kind of guests that not only keep you informed locally, but throughout the nation. And that is awesome.
And when you consider that with the technology today, we're streaming the TV program on the internet worldwide.
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of a mind-blowing
Oh, absolutely.
thing.
The fact that you can go on now and you can watch Coffee and Conversation in any nation in the world.
If you have internet, yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, anything on Sun Broadcasting, if you go to our programming page and see the different programs, and you pick out a program, and we're just going to say you pick Coffee and Conversation, you can tune in and watch live. And that is awesome. Yes, sir. Well, I want you, go ahead.
You can do that, and you can tell your friends and relatives that don't get the TV signal because they're out of the New Mexico area. All they have to do is go to Google, type in KCHF, make a space, and then the word streaming. That's all. Hit enter. A window will come up, and you'll see a little play button. You click on that, and you got us.
See, you were a lot simpler than I was. I go through the complicated process, but Frank knows the shortcut. Follow Frank's path. You're watching us on KCHF TV 11, listening to us on KDAZ AM 730 and 96.9 FM. Coffee and Conversation will be right back.
In watching Dr. Stanley all these years, he's still speaking the truth about hearing the voice of God and obedience. There's nothing added to it. There's nothing that he's taken away. It's just truthful. And then it's Dr. Stanley, and he is an amazing communicator. There's just no nonsense there, and that's what I love about him. You know, he's very honest about who God is and truthful, and that's essential in the world that we live in today.
Majesty Worship Center presents the 8th Annual Soldiers of the Cross Iron Sharpens Iron Men's Conference, Friday, September 27th, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday the 28th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at South Broadway Cultural Center in Albuquerque. For more information, call 505-261-5667 or visit the web at majestyworship.org. Co-sponsored with the Sun Broadcasting Network.
Wishing for more money in your pocket this summer? With an auto loan from State ECU, you'll be cruising with no car payments for 90 days and $150 cash. Whether you're buying a new vehicle or refinancing, we're here to help those summer wishes come true. Finance your vehicle with State ECU today. Visit your local branch, give us a call, or apply for your loan online.
State Employees Credit Union, local confidence.
Now, an information update with Frank Haley in the AM 730 newsroom, and now on FM 96.9.
Hello, New Mexico, and good day to all our listeners and viewers in Torreon. It's a Friday, September 20th. Look for a high temperature this afternoon in Albuquerque of about 87 degrees. Next week, cooler weather on the way. The highs will be in the mid to upper 70s. The news is brought to you by Sun Broadcasting in Albuquerque. That slow churning remnants of Tropical Storm Imelda
that flooded parts of Texas left at least 2 people dead, and rescue crews with boats scrambling to reach stranded drivers and families trapped in their homes during a relentless downpour that drew comparisons to Hurricane Harvey 2 years ago. Some areas of southeast Texas got 35 to 40 inches of rain in 48 hours. By last night, floodwaters had started receding in most of the Houston area. About 900 flights were canceled at Houston's 2 airports. Federal, state, and local law enforcement agents, some descending from helicopters, staged early morning raids in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and elsewhere in north and central New Mexico to take down a longtime drug trafficking organization and its leaders. Robert Corbin Padilla, also known as Fathead, was taken into custody in Albuquerque yesterday. Padilla is facing multiple charges, including distribution of fentanyl and cocaine. The FBI, Homeland Security, and U.S. Marshals plan to execute arrest warrants for about 25 people, a dozen of whom are members of the Padilla drug organization. Albuquerque police say 1 man is dead after some kind of an altercation near Coors and Central last night. The man was rushed to the hospital and later died. No other details released. And that man who shot at sheriff's deputies, injuring 2 of them in a northwest Albuquerque neighborhood Wednesday night, told investigators he thought he was a victim of a home invasion. 36-year-old Kenneth Sondergaard is charged with multiple counts of aggravated assault on peace officers and possession of a firearm by a felon. A woman approaching the house after the deputies arrived told them, well, she'd been buying methamphetamine from Sondergaard for about 2 months. Well, have you noticed more balloons in the air lately as we get ready for our most notable event? The Balloon Fiesta starts Saturday, October 5th. So far, 559 balloons are registered for this year's Fiesta. That's just 8 shy of last year. The 2017 Balloon Fiesta generated nearly $173 million into the local economy. That's the news. Remember what Franklin D. Roosevelt said, when you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot in it and hang on. Have a blessed day. I'm Frank Haley, CJF.
Welcome back into the Coffee and Conversation studio. I always enjoy the end of the news because that's when Frank is going to give me some kind of an amazing thing that somebody said that I've never heard before. So I appreciate what Frank does at the end of that. And I appreciate the news, too, because you don't get the local flavor like that tuning into the national news. So we appreciate you, Frank Haley. Thank you so much. I said in the first half of the hour that we were going to have a second guest who is also an author, and it is my honor to welcome Marty Vargas to the show. Marty, welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, now, you're in New York, is that right?
Yes, I'm in New York City area.
Okay. And I appreciate you taking the time to be with us here in New Mexico. I want to talk a little bit about your book, A Place for You. And tell me, why did you write this book?
I wrote this book. I was compelled to write this book. I am from the experience of discovering my mother, finding my mother. My mother had lived in the streets for over 20-plus years. And they found me and my mother sleeping in the snow when I was an infant. She kept me alive for about 7 months in the street until finally she relinquished me. And then my adoptive family moved me away to California. Wow. So I never knew my mom, Yeah. And so after the experience of finding her, I produced a documentary that went on television, and I said to myself, the book, if I wrote a book, it would tell more detail, and I would be able to communicate her story better, and that's why I wrote the book.
And tell me what this journey has been like.
It was a very difficult journey. I had to live the pain of these pages, and finding my mother was a very difficult experience for me because initially I didn't love her because I didn't know her.
Right.
But I was compelled by something inwardly to help her. And then when I chose finally to love her, you know, it just, the love came. And so it actually transformed me. I was taught how to love unconditionally because my mother's situation was very wretched.
Yes.
She was smelly, it smelled like defecation. She used to urinate and defecate in the streets. She was a crazy homeless person. But, you know, that all changed eventually. You know
Right.
what I'm
Well,
saying?
how did you find her?
Well, what happened was my brother had passed away, and prior to him passing, my adoptive brother, when I say my brother, I'm talking my adoptive brother, the family I was adopted in. Right before that happened, I was almost murdered in my home by a house invader. I didn't know who in the world he was.
Oh, my goodness.
That night I lived, he died. And so I went out after this experience and wondering, why did this happen to me? And I prayed to God. I said, look, you know, I mean, why am I here? Where did I come from? And within a month and a half, 2 months, I found out where I came from. And what happened was my brother was visiting with me. He had a massive heart attack. And so we had to ship his body from California, where he was visiting me, all the way to the East Coast. And it was when I arrived in the East Coast, a cousin came up to me at the funeral and asked me, would I like to find my mom?
Wow.
And at this point in my life, I'm like, never thought of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was adopted. I grew up in California. I just had a beautiful life as a child.
Sure.
know.
How old were you at this point, Marty?
How old?
21
perhaps, 22.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point, I was a young man. And I asked her, I said, who is she? She said, her name is Rachel, and she lives in the streets. And that night I could hardly rest, realizing the very moment who birthed me into this world was somewhere out there sleeping in the park bench or on a dirty alley somewhere. And so I was like having these lightning flashes going through my mind. I couldn't sleep all night. And that began the journey the very next day of trying to find my mother, who had been homeless at that point for 23 years.
Well, how did it feel finding your mom?
That was an amazing experience because we had to comb every single street almost in the journey to where she was, you know, known to be haunting, if I would use that word.
Right.
And it was a very scary experience for me because, you know, in my childhood memories, all I could remember was these haunting memories of this woman called Rachel, you know. And so I took every step with intrepidity, and we were searching from alley to alley to alley, and then finally we came to a cathedral, and I was banging on the door, but only an empty echo returned, and she wasn't there. And it was several days of journey, you know, just coming down to the last day. And I remember my cousin had called all the shelters throughout Philadelphia, trying to find my mom, and we decided to go to this one shelter that was on Broad and Federal Street in Philadelphia, on Broad Street. And I remember when I came to that door and knocked on that door, and I pulled my cousin close to me, I said, we have to pray because I don't know what we're going to see. And after that, the door flung open, and we were met by a young black woman smiling from ear to ear, and she said to me, your mother's a beautiful person.
Wow.
Apparently they heard that I was coming, and finally we were led down this long empty corridor to a gymnasium that was so dark, but the stage in the gymnasium was well lit up. And the door parted, and all these homeless people were just standing there, and they parted like the Red Sea, and we walked in between them, and then I saw my mother. And Joanne, my cousin, was the one that kind of prompted all this, you know, got me started looking for her. And we were led up to the gymnasium stage, and it was just blasting with these lights, only on the stage. Everything around the stage was dark. And she said, Marty, this is your mother. Aunt Ray, this is your son, Marty. And I got up, I hugged her, you know, and she just looked at me with a silent, unbelieving gaze. It was like, I guess it was just, you know, too much for her to handle. And she just stared at me, and I just tried to reassure her that I loved her and I was here for her, etc., you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a mind-blowing experience because I tried to sit there and figure out how is it that she was living in the streets for all these years? What propelled her there?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to those things came in years later when I was constantly working to bring her off the streets, and I pieced together her backstory of all the things that happened to her.
Well, did she want to come off the streets, Marty?
Yeah, she wanted to come off the streets, but she was bound by fears. And my mother's been raped multiple times. I have brothers and sisters that we found them, you know, I didn't find them, but people would tell me they would find my brothers and sisters that were born in the streets dead, you know. And she's been raped multiple times. People have done a lot of stuff. And I went in the book, I go into the backstory, what propelled her there, because she was a totally normal person like you and I, you know what I'm saying? And taking 2 baths a day, very immaculate, very clean, and now here she is out here. And so, you know, that, you know, how can I say it, inspired me to try to help her even more, even though, you know, she would come off the streets. You know? And when I used to make subsequent visits to go see her and find her in the streets, and I would fly. I was a student in college. I would fly from California to Philadelphia. I exhausted my entire bank account.
Oh, sure.
I went down there. I did about 5 flights, 5 major trips down there to try to save my mother off the streets. She spit in my face. She cursed me out. And then love changed her.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you ever get her to live with you, and what was that like?
Oh, my, yes. There came a day when she came home to live with me, and I remember driving the car. And she didn't come voluntarily at that point because, you know, all this time she was captivated by her fears. And
right.
I remember that last trip that I made, one of the last trips I made to go see her, and I decided I was going to kidnap her. And I drugged her coffee, and she fell asleep on my lap.
My gosh, Marty.
And we had binoculars looking out for the police and everything. And finally the car rolled up. I grabbed my mother. I rushed her to the car, and suddenly she woke up. She broke loose from my grip, and she started screaming, "I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go." And I was like, this is 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I reasoned with her in the streets of Philadelphia until 4, 8 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, my goodness.
And finally, I squatted down, and I looked into her little eyes, and I said, you know, Mom, I want to tell you why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I love you, and I have a place prepared for you. And at that moment, her eyes began to swell with tears, and she says, I want to, but I'm afraid. You know? And that was the most heartbreaking moment of my life, because at that point, I had believed by faith that I was going to get her home. I bought her ticket and everything, and I broke down at the airport when they asked me her name, if she was with me, you know, and is she going to join in the flight. And I just like, wow, you know. But, you know, eventually I got her off the street, and they made a clean sweep. It was back during the time when they actually took all the homeless people off of the streets of Philadelphia, and my mother ended up in Pennsylvania Hospital. And they said they would only release her to one person, that was me, because everyone in the neighborhood knew who I was at this point.
Wow.
This is Rachel and her son, and he's trying to get her off the streets. It became this, like, I don't know, center of attraction, though I didn't want it so. And so finally I got her in the car and was making my way up to New York City, and I was on I-95, which is one of the most populated highways in the country. And she was trying to break the door down to jump out.
Goodness.
And I was just like having these nightmares driving that my mother's going to get threaded by all these oncoming cars, you know. And I was just like, and finally we got her home, and I got her to I lived in a 2nd-story apartment building at that time, and I had to train her to sit and eat like a normal human being, because she would squat on the floor, and I would bathe her and take care of her. And, and then she began to come around. But then the propensity to be in the streets, she would run away. And I would have to work all day, and at night I'd be on my bicycle searching through the streets of New York trying to find my mom. And then one time, she ran away many times, and one time she came back to the house. I don't know why, but she was going to the mailbox or something, and I saw her, and I started chasing her down the street, and I grabbed her, and she started flipping me. We start rolling on all the parked cars, and this guy pulls up screaming, and he says, "Lady, do you need any help?"
She's flipping you over, and he's wanting to know if she needs help.
Yeah, and I said, "No, she's my mom. She's not well." And the man was stunned. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then what capped it off is that one night I heard the blinds, rattle, and I said, "Oh, it's the summer wind. It's the June wind." I woke up in the morning, and my mom had jumped out the second-story window, and she had broken 8 bones in her body. And I remember peeling her off the concrete, and the ambulance took her, and the doctor was like amazed. He said, "I can't believe she's not screaming. She broke 8 bones in her body."
Wow.
And that slowed her down. There was a blessing in disguise. So you don't want anyone to go through that. And so I finally got her out again, and I took her to the ocean, and I walked through the trackless sand, and I put her there to wait for me to get the food. And when I came back, she was crying. I said, "Why are you crying?" She says, "I've never seen the ocean before."
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So these were kind of just some of the moments that I describe in the book, and going into the backstory and going into the depths of what I experienced with her. But for me, it was incredibly life-changing because it taught me to give up my own personal pride and my own personal selfishness. It taught me how to love and unconditionally.
Yes.
And when I chose to love, then the love came.
Right.
It was really powerful. But, that wasn't the end of the story. There was, she kept on kind of dismissing herself and fleeing and stuff like that. And we got separated for a period of time. And then finally one day, I was being transferred to Long Island from Staten Island for my job. And my mother at this point had almost died of pneumonia, and she was in a care facility. And they were looking for a place to put her, and there were only 2 places they could put her at that time. And one was one of the places, both of them were close, to where I was being transferred.
Wow.
And this was not calculated on my part.
Right.
They used when they were going through her insurance and everything, it's there's this place in East Islip and this place in West Babylon. And I was transferred to Babylon.
Wow.
And it gave me the wonderful opportunity. I could walk to her facility where they were taking care of her. And, of course, she would shun me and, roll over. And she kind of resented me intensely. I can't say kind of because it's a contradiction, but intensely resented me because I took her off the streets.
Right.
And then one day I walked in, and she started giving me trouble. And the old ladies in the nursing home said, "Why do you give your son so much trouble?" They were baffled by it. And so I went to go play the piano, and I was playing the piano, and I came back. And then a couple of days later, my mom looked at me. She says, "I want to live with you."
Wow. That is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, when other people started saying, he's trying to be good to you, that may have gotten her thinking. That may have been one of those triggers that let her know, hey, he genuinely loves and cares for me. And then the transition started.
Yeah, I think you're precisely right. And at the moment when she asked me, I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. And I said, "Let me think about it." Because I remembered her jumping from the second floor.
Right. Yeah.
I remembered all the police cars and the cruisers in my driveway, always having to fill out missing persons reports. And I was just a nightmare that she took me through.
Yeah. And Marty, I have to ask you, I mean, I've only got a minute left, and I want to know, how can people secure a copy of your book?
Okay. Yeah, it's martyvargas.com,
Okay.
the website, and there you can click on there and it would take you to the places where you need to go. But martyvargas.com, and MARTY, V is in victory, ARGAS.com. And from there you can secure a copy of the book. It's on Amazon and CreateSpace and places like that. And I just hope that people can be as blessed by the story as I was blessed eventually when I came, out
Sure.
of the shell shock of it all.
Marty, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us on the show today. And I want to say that I think you covered just enough of the book to get people's interest peaked and their appetite ready for more. So I want to encourage all of our viewers and listeners, go to martyvargas.com and secure a copy. Marty, thank you for being with us, sir.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure, my honor. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. That was Marty Vargas, author, speaker, documentarian, and engineer. He's written a book called A Place for You. And if you have, I know I want to read it now that I've heard part of the story. I want to know the rest of the story. So I encourage you to go out and get it. You're watching us on KCHF TV 11, listening to us on KDAZ AM 730 and 96.9 FM. We'll be back on Coffee and Conversation after this.
Save the date for a decade of delivery, our 10th annual fundraising banquet benefiting CareNet Pregnancy Center of Santa Fe and Espanola, Saturday, October 5th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Santa Fe Convention Center. Please join us as actress and pro-life speaker Lauren Roman, best known for the ABC soap All My Children, shares an entertaining, dynamic, and powerful message, including her own life-changing encounter with a pregnancy resource center. You won't want to miss it. CareNet of Santa Fe Espanola, a decade of delivery banquet, Saturday, October 5th at the Santa Fe Convention Center. The banquet is free, but you must register to be sure to meal. To register, call 505-995-1998 or register online at registration@santafepregnancy.com. Save the date, a decade of delivery, 10th annual fundraising banquet benefiting CareNet Pregnancy Center of Santa Fe Espanola, Saturday, October 5th, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Santa Fe Convention Center.
Co-sponsored in part by Sun Broadcasting.
Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation here in the studio. I'm Mark Wall with Frank Haley, and we were just talking with Marty Vargas, and what an incredible story.
Yeah. Oh, my.
Yes, and homelessness affects so many people.
Yeah.
Even in the schools right now in Albuquerque alone, I'm told there are over 4,500 homeless children.
It's higher than that. It's
Is
close
it?
to 6,000.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend here in Albuquerque who's now married and has a good job and working and everything, but he grew up with he and his mother, lived in their car for several years in this city.
Yeah. And, I mean, we're talking about children.
Yeah.
Over 6,000 children.
Yeah.
I thought in the...
They do couch surfing.
Right.
They'll stay at one house for a week and then move to another friend. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I just stand in awe of his story, and I want to read it. I want to find out what happened.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh.
Sir, it's been an honor being on with you today.
Hey, you know what?
Tell me.
When we are together next week on Monday, it won't be summer anymore.
No,
it'll be
won't.
fall.
Fall.
This is your last summer weekend. You better get with it, buddy.
I know. I got to find something to do. Let's see. I know we've talked about several things on the air this week that are coming up. And I just want to encourage people, get out this weekend. It's the last weekend of summer. Truly get out, enjoy yourself, and have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be getting cool. I heard you in the first hour talking about next week. Those temperatures are going down.
Mid to upper 70s for
How about
highs.
it?
Oh,
Isn't that going to be so comfortable?
Oh, the mornings are going to be mid 50s or 60s. Oh, I just love that.
Yeah, we say that until it's 20, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
But I'm going to enjoy the 70s while they're here.
I am too.
Absolutely. I hope you have an awesome weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in today, whether by television or on the radio. We look forward to being with you again next week. be praying for Larry and his wife. Join us next week on Coffee and Conversation.
Join us again for Coffee and Conversation with Frank and Larry. For comments and questions, email Larry at coffeeandconvonm.com. If you'd like to be a guest, call Kitty at 505-345-7373 or visit our website at coffeeandconvonm.com. You can write us today at Coffee and Conversation, P.O. Box 4338, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87196. Save the date for a decade of delivery, our 10th annual fundraising banquet benefiting